Celine did not respond to the question, but instead, she looked at Phoebe and said, "Had it not been for the fact that this was just a misunderstanding and you are not the one that are really targeting Samantha for killing her, then, I would not have hesitated to kill you." Of course, Celine understood that Phoebe had only targeted Samantha because she thought that Samantha was involved with the Panthers organization. But, that was just a misunderstanding that needed to be cleared out. Additionally, she had already felt that during the time that Phoebe was attacking, she had used her full attack power. But, close to the end, she retracted the strength in her attack, implying that she was not willing to kill her in case Celine was just an ordinary human. That was the exact reason why she herself had also held back. Otherwise, she would have not given Phoebe a chance of getting back to her feet, and just gone ahead and killed her. After saying that, Celine turned around and looked at Samantha. Then, she nodded at her, before the two of them walked out of the room. Karen, who had not left, was also flabbergasted after seeing this. Inside the entire stronghold number 17, the number of superhumans was actually 3. As for the members of the other organizations, there was not even a single one of them that had managed to reach the superhuman level, not even the leaders of those organizations. So, noticing that there was actually a person that they did not know, who had already reached the superhuman level, and possessed a special ability, something that they had only heard about, but they had never seen one, she could not help but be startled. At the same time, she wondered what kind of background Celine possessed. She was not the only one that was thinking this way, because as Phoebe struggled back to her feet, she could not help but to contemplate on what it was that Jack and his group possessed to be able to attract Sylvia. Not to mention the strength that Celine possessed, she could clearly remember that Jack was actually the leader. And if that was the case, didn't that mean that he was way stronger than Celine? If that was the case, then, how strong was he? Phoebe finally felt her blood boiling. The only opponent that she previously possessed inside the entire stronghold was Sylvia. But right now, another person had appeared, and this person was way stronger than she was. At this point, she felt stimulated. So, without even caring about Karen, she rushed towards the room where she usually trained. Since she had already been injured by Celine, she had no choice but to enter into the healing pod, to get herself to be healed. And after she managed to heal, since the injuries that she had suffered were not quite fatal, she immediately resumed her training. This time, she really didn't care much about the organization. At the end of the day, it was not as if there was someone that was actively attacking the Butterfly organization. The main reason why the Butterfly organization and the Panthers organization were at an argument was due to the two leaders, Sylvia and Phoebe. The two of them had always been at odds, something that led to the two organizations having tension. It was also due to this that the second in command of each organization decided that they had to fight against the other organization because they were the only competition that they possessed in the entire stronghold. And, just like that, the two organizations began fighting for the position of supremacy of the entire stronghold. That was something that had been going on for over 6 years now. Phoebe did not even know how the time was moving. Instead, this time, she did not spare any resources. She worked out hard, and after feeling that she was completely spent, she would use the resources in order to recover. And after recovering from the pod, she would take 30 minutes break before going back to training, and she did not seem to be having the intention of giving up at all. And just like that, the entire night went by, and Phoebe only managed to sleep for 3 hours, and she woke up the following day at about 2 a.m. before she began training again. Had it not been for the fact that she was using the resources that the organization possessed to the limit, then, she would have been definitely spent by now. After all, it was not easy to relieve the muscles after overexerting them for a very long time. Phoebe could also feel that she was progressing quite well. For that reason, she did not have the intention of giving up. And, it was a good thing that nobody had come over to disturb her during all this time. Well, that was what Phoebe was happy about, until 8 o'clock in the morning. At that time, Karen came over to look for her. Since Karen possessed permission to enter this room, she did not require Phoebe to open the door for her. When Phoebe realized that Karen came over, she could not help but squint her brows, as she looked at her with dissatisfaction clear in her eyes. "What is it this time? Don't you see that I'm currently training?" Phoebe asked irritatedly. Karen felt her body trembling a little. But she could understand the situation that Phoebe was currently in. At the end of the day, it was not long ago that she had been acting almighty in front of Celine, before she was taken down in a single blow. And for that reason, she had become a maniac when it came to training, and right now, Karen knew that if she wasted time for Phoebe, then, she was going to be punished. "Leader, there's something big that has happened. Karen stated a little agitatedly. Phoebe on the other hand could not help but get even more dissatisfied after hearing what Karen had said. She looked at her and asked, "What kind of big something can happen inside this stronghold? I don't think that there's anything big that can happen inside this stronghold to be able to attract my attention, if it is not related to that B*TCH Sylvia. And perhaps this new group of people that has arrived in this stronghold. It is actually related to the Panthers organization. For some reason, the entire Panthers organization has been dissolved." Karen went ahead and stated what it was that was actually bothering her. Phoebe was surprised, and she thought that she had not heard clearly what Karen was saying. "Are you playing a joke on me?" Phoebe asked sternly. "Not at all. That is something that has happened, and it has shocked the entire stronghold. For some strange reason, Sylvia, the supreme leader of the Panthers organization, decided to dissolve the entire organization today. It has already been made official that the Panthers organization does not exist anymore," Karen responded hurriedly. Unlike the previous time, she had come over today with enough information. Before she came over to report to Phoebe, she made sure to investigate the information that she had received. And she herself was shell-shocked after realizing that it was actually true. The Panthers organization had been dissolved, and all the resources of the Panthers organization was being handed over to someone else. Of course, the last part was the information that he had received after doing some internal investigation, and it was not something that was known by the public. Karen went ahead and described to Phoebe what was happening. It turned out that Sylvia had decided that she was going to dissolve the Panthers organization. But, of course, there was always a group of people that was against this, considering that the Panthers organization was not something that had just started recently. But all of them were dealt with by Sylvia using iron fists, and, after shutting everybody up, Sylvia went ahead and decided to take every resource that was present in the organization, claiming that she was going to hand them over to someone else. As for the members of the Panthers organization, she told them that if they wanted to continue being members of the Panthers organization, although it had already been dissolved, they could as well join this new force that was being created. Still, she claimed that she was not going to guarantee that the treatment that they were going to receive there was going to be any better than the one that they had received while in the Panthers organization. And neither could she say that it would not be worse than the one that they received in the Panthers organization. It was due to this reason that many people had decided to leave the Panthers organization. And, the majority of the ladies that possessed the highest positions within the Panthers organization decided to join the Butterfly organization. This was supposed to be good news for the Panthers organization. But, it was just that Karen could not make a decision on this matter, considering that it was too big for her to handle. That was the reason why she decided to come over and inform Phoebe about this matter. She was not sure if this was just a gimmick that was being made by the Panthers organization, and they were trying to use this method in order to gain information from the Butterfly organization. "That is completely unexpected," Phoebe stated after hearing everything that Karen had said to her. For some reason, Phoebe remembered about what had happened the previous day. That was, she received the information that Sylvia was somehow involved with Jack's group. And, she made her assumptions at this moment that, perhaps this force that Sylvia was handing over all the resources of the Panthers organization to, was actually Jack's group. What kind of background does this group possess? Phoebe could not help but question herself. Although she had not said it out loud the previous day, she was surprised to find out that Celine was young, and yet she was a superhuman. Other than that, she actually possessed a special ability. It might be true that after reaching the superhuman level, it was quite difficult for a person to be able to tell the age of a person accurately, but still, just looking at Celine's demeanor, Phoebe was able to judge that Celine was in her 20s. She on the other hand had only managed to reach the superhuman level at the age of 31. And currently, she was at the age of 37. It was just that, due to the fact that she had reached the superhuman level, and it was during this age that women became mature, her beauty was maintained. Additionally, she looked quite young, as if she was in her late 20s, but she was actually in her late 30s. As for Celine, just the youthful vibe that she was giving was enough to tell her that Celine was actually in her 20s, and at most, in her early 30s. The competition between her and Sylvia had actually begun as soon as she became a superhuman. Sylvia became a superhuman ahead of her, but, she on the other hand did not give up. So, currently, although she knew that Sylvia was a little stronger than she was, she believed that she was going to be capable of overtaking her. Don't take any action as of yet. As for those that want to join our Butterfly organization, don't allow any of them to join our organization first. We have to investigate everything clearly to understand what is going on. Only then will we be accepting those that want to join our organization, Phoebe stated after a moment of silence. Karen was a little surprised after hearing the decision that Phoebe had made. According to what she knew that Phoebe would definitely take any chance available in order to strike Sylvia. But, currently, although this was a chance that she could utilize in order to gain more power for the Butterfly organization, but Phoebe had suddenly given up on it. Although she did not understand the logic that Phoebe was using during this moment, but she did not want to argue with Phoebe. Anyway, it was not as if she was the one who wanted to fight against Sylvia. To her, currently, it was not as if the Butterfly organization was losing anything, so they could as well just stand on the side and observe things clearly. After confirming that everything was okay, then it would definitely not be late to be able to get those people that wanted to join the Butterfly organization. A few hours back, not long after Celine left, Jack finally woke up. He could feel that his body was heavy, and his mind was kind of hazy. He could not think things clearly, it was as his brain was currently overloaded. At the same time, he felt that his hands were kind of itching, as if they wanted to do something. And, at this point, Jack could not help but think that the system was too overpowered. Slowly, information began appearing in his mind as he began processing the information slowly. And, he came to realize that all the information about craftsmanship had actually been integrated into his mind. And due to the fact that it was actually intermediate level of information, he came to find out that currently, his craftsman skills had already gone beyond the knowledge that was recorded in the books that he had been reading previously. Not only that, he realized that there were several mistakes that were present in the books that he was reading. And, there were even other methods that he could utilize in order to make sure that he completed the craftsmanship in the most efficient way. Not only that, but he came to realize that he possessed more knowledge. He was capable of creating vehicles that were way more advanced than the ones that could be found within this stronghold. And at this point, he also realized that he did not need to continue studying the vehicle that he had been rewarded with by the system. He realized that all the information that he had gathered all along was at a lower level as compared to the one that he currently possessed. Due to the 100 times multiplier effect, Jack was able to easily adapt. And currently, he felt that he had been a professional in these things for a very long time, because not only just his mind was affected, but even his muscles were affected, enhancing his muscle memory. Without him even noticing, over an hour had already gone by. And by the time that he came back to his senses, Celine had finally come back together with Samantha. The moment that she arrived, Celine did not stay behind to tell Denali what had happened. Instead, she left Samantha to give the details to Denali as she herself went to look for Jack. She was quite relieved after realizing that nothing had happened during the time that she was away. After entering the room, she found that Jack was awake, but he was staring at the ceiling of the room. She was a little worried, wondering what it was that was making him seem as if he was in deep thought. Just as she was about to ask what was going on, Jack turned around and looked at her. Then, he asked, "How long has it been since I became unconscious?" Celine was a little startled, but she still responded, "Until now, it has been about an hour and some 40 minutes or so." She was not sure about the time because she really wasn't keeping an eye on how long it had been, but she could still estimate the time that she had been away. "Oh, I never thought that it was going to take that long," Jack stated a little absent-mindedly. After that, he sat up, before standing to stretch his muscles a little bit. Celine stood on the side, as she waited for him to finish what he was doing. And after a while, Jack looked at her and said, "There are some changes that we are going to make on the information that you are reading. This should enable you to be able to learn things more efficiently and easily." "Huh?" Celine was a little surprised by Jack's words. But still, she went ahead and nodded her head, as she looked at Jack curiously. She was wondering what it was this time that had changed. The last time that he had slept for a very long time, he had activated an ability that allowed her to be able to learn things at a speed that was 100 times faster than the previous times that she learned things. And now, she wondered what it was that had changed. Looking at Celine's curious eyes, Jack was a little surprised, before he finally understood what it was that Celine was thinking about. Smiling, he asked, "You're already asking for the benefits?" Celine blushed a little. Although it was true that she really cared about Jack, it was inconceivable that she had thought about if there was going to be a benefit that she was going to get this time or not. Anyway, nobody could blame her considering that she was a human after all, and it was inevitable that there were moments that she would be selfish. Of course. What else can I be thinking about right now? You know, last time, you gave me something that is helping me right now to advance faster. So, I'm curious about what it is that you are going to give me this time," Celine stated with a mischievous smile on her lips. The moment that Celine smiled, Jack could not help but be dazzled by the beautiful smile that was adorned on Celine's face. Then, he took a step forward, and held Celine's left cheek with his right hand. Celine also noticed his movement, but she did not dodge him. She looked directly into his eyes, waiting for his response. Then, before she could even realize it, Jack had actually moved forward, and closed the gap that existed between their faces, before connecting their lips. It was only after about 5 seconds, after Jack pulled away, that Celine finally reacted. She looked at Jack questioningly, with some grievance in her eyes. Looking at that cute expression on her face, Jack could not help but chuckle. Shrugging his shoulders, Jack pretended to be helpless and said, "That is the only benefit that I currently possess, so I have already given to you. But I don't really mind repeating giving you that benefit again, and it can go deeper than that." Shameless. With her face bright red, Celine muttered in a low voice. After that, she continuously stared at Jack without saying anything. Looking at Celine, who was gazing at him without shifting her gaze anywhere else, Jack began moving closer. And, when Celine realized this, she took 2 steps backwards. And this went on. Every time that Jack took a step forward, Celine would retreat 2 steps backwards, and it wasn't long before Celine found herself between Jack and the wall that was behind her. She tried looking for a way out, but before she could do anything, Jack placed his hands on both sides of her, enclosing her on the wall. After that, he leaned forward once again. When Celine realized this, her breathing rate increased. But instead of resisting, she actually closed her eyes, and subconsciously pouted her lips. Just as she was expecting that a kiss was going to land on her lips, she heard Jack speaking, "The other benefit that I'm going to help you with is to help you in advancing in whatever it is that you want to learn." Huh? Celine opened her eyes in surprise. She was actually not expecting something like this from Jack. They had been interacting for a long time now, and she believed that normally, Jack was going to kiss her. But, surprisingly, he did not. She had already gotten used to him taking advantage of her, but she really enjoyed a moment like that. So, she felt a little disappointed after realizing that Jack did not have the intention of kissing her. "I said that the other benefit that I am going to give you is that I'm going to help you in advancing in whatever it is that you want to learn faster." Jack repeated himself, as he continuously closed in between the two of them. The gap between the two of them had already been reduced to mere inches. At this point, Celine could feel Jack's breath on her face. This made her blush even more. But still, she did not move, considering that she did not even have anywhere that she could go, considering that Jack was blocking her from both sides, with behind her the wall blocking her path of escape. It did not take long for Celine to be able to think clearly, and after realizing what it was that Jack was trying to imply, she could not help but be a little surprised. "Are you trying to tell me that my speed of learning things is going to increase once again? Currently, it is already 100 times faster than I could before. How many times is going to increase by this time?" Celine asked a little excitedly. Jack was left speechless for a moment. Then, he reacted and said, "That's not what I was trying to imply. What I'm trying to say is that, if in case there's anything that you don't understand, there's no need for you to think too much about it. I can simply go ahead and help you with the doubts that you are having." Oh, of course, Celine was a little disappointed at that. But, thinking clearly about it, although it was true that her learning speed had actually been increased by 100 times, that did not imply that she was actually capable of understanding everything clearly. Without a teacher, she had to think everything clearly by herself. If there was anything that she did not understand, she had to do her own research in order to be able to understand whatever it was that she did have some doubts about. But what Jack had said was actually something that was going to help her. If she did not understand anything, she did not need to waste time researching on that matter, but she could simply ask him to clear everything for her. But she could not help but look at Jack curiously, wondering how it was possible that he was able to understand everything. But, just thinking about all the things that he had been doing, all the skills that he possessed before they came into the stronghold domain, and the structure of his gene that was shown during the time of the testing, she decided not to ask. In any case, she felt that Jack was keeping a lot from her, but he was also revealing a lot to her as compared to anybody else. Although she was not that happy about the fact that he was still keeping a lot from her, but she did not feel that much sad, considering that Jack was actually revealing things to her slowly. Additionally, she felt that Jack was mysterious in some ways. Not only him, but even his mother. After all, during the times that she had interacted with his mother, she had never expected that she was actually a superhuman. Even the appearance of Jack's mother at that time did not actually match the one that these people here possessed. At that time, Jack's mother was actually just like a normal human, growing old as time went by. Okay. We should get going right now. The food has already been brought over, and you have woken up just in time. Right now, it is already at 7 o'clock in the night, and it is better if we eat dinner right now, Celine stated. But she had just finished saying that when suddenly, Jack landed a kiss on her lips. Then, just as she was wondering why Jack had done that, Jack retreated and said with a smile on his face, "I'm sure that you were kind of anticipating that before I spoke about the benefit." Celine simply snorted after hearing what Jack had said. In her mind, however, she could not help but exclaim, "Just say that you wanted to kiss me. Why is it that you are actually looking for an excuse that you only wanted to kiss me? I'll be there in a moment. But now, I have to deal with something else first," Jack said, looking at Celine, who was looking at him with a little grievance in her eyes. Celine pouted her lips before she decided to leave. She was not sure about what it was that Jack wanted to deal with, but she trusted him. So, she decided to go ahead and prepare the food for him, so that after he was done, he could just go ahead and eat. After Celine left, Jack finally focused on the system prompt that had appeared in front of him. Of course, it had appeared some time ago, it was just that, he was not focusing on it at all. A task has been generated. The host is given a mission of taking over the entire stronghold named Devon. The time limit for this will be 1 month. In case the host fails to complete the mission on time, then, all the abilities that the host has received will be taken away. And other than that, one random ability of the system would also be frozen for an entire year. Jack was left speechless after reading through the mission that he had been given. He had not expected that the system was going to give him a mission like this. Of course, it was not going to be difficult for him to be able to conquer a stronghold. It was just that, the stronghold that he had been assigned to conquer was actually a stronghold with a name. That implied that the level of that stronghold was not low at all. And if that was the case, the power that was present in that stronghold was quite high, unlike the one that could be found in stronghold number 17. Not to mention the fact that he really did not know the stronghold called Devon. He had actually been given a time limit of only 1 month. That implied that, 1 month from this moment, he was actually supposed to be capable of dealing with several superhumans at the same time. From this, Jack could already tell that the system did not want him to play low, but it wanted him to go out completely. It was just that, by going all out like that, he was definitely going to create many enemies along the way. As for the punishment of failing to complete the mission, of course, the first one he could understand, considering that that was always something that happened during the emergency missions. But now, he was actually going to have one of the system's abilities frozen. And it was actually random. If it just happened that the one that multiplied the income that he received by 100 times, then, he was definitely going to have a difficult time to be able to reach the top inside the stronghold. Moreover, it was going to be frozen for an entire year. This was definitely something that Jack was not going to agree to. So, no matter what, he decided that he was going to start tomorrow, by taking over the entire stronghold that he was currently in. After doing that, he was going to get more resources, and, with those resources, he was going to be able to improve his own strength, together with that of the people around him. Other than that, he wanted to recruit as many people as possible, and then, using the resources that he would have received, he was going to increase their strength. So, at this moment, Jack had decided that he was going to have the multiplier effect increase the quality of his income, and not the quantity. In this way, he would have the resources that he could use in order to improve his level as a superhuman. After making that decision, Jack went ahead and joined the rest of the group in their meal. The meal was somehow lively, considering that Samantha was recounting whatever had happened and not long ago. Jack was a little surprised that not long after he had been unconscious, something like that happened. Had it not been for the fact that Celine was actually a superhuman, then, there was no doubt that Samantha would be in trouble. At this point, he decided that, he had to make sure that everything was okay before he got himself in something like the one that had happened today. And other than that, Jack decided that tomorrow, the first thing that he was going to do was definitely pay a visit to the Force organization. Those guys were the reason why he had been assigned a difficult mission. After all, the information that he had received until now was just too much, with the majority of them being completely irrelevant. The following day, Jack and his group did not go to the store. Instead, Jack decided to head directly to the Force organization first. Of course, it might actually seem that whatever he was doing was petty, but he did not really care about that. Not to mention the fact that he had been given a mission to conquer a territory that was currently named. If he could actually not conquer a territory that did not even have a name, then, how was he supposed to conquer a territory that was having a name? So, Jack had actually decided that he was going to conquer the entire stronghold number 17. And, after that, he was going to start this place as where his organization was going to start. And, from here, he was going to spread out. But to make sure that was possible, he had to get as many resources as possible. And currently, the Force organization was considered as his enemy. For that reason, this implied that he was going to be capable of gaining something from the Force organization. And if that happened, then, the system was going to multiply the income that he had received in terms of quality and quantity. But they had just left the home when suddenly, they were blocked by another vehicle in front of them. It was a black car, with tinted windows. It was in the shape of a Lamborghini, a sports car that was found in the Stronghold domain. But it was just that, the performance of the vehicles inside the Stronghold domain was way higher as compared to the one that would be found in the normal world. Jack frowned, as he was not expecting that there was someone who was going to come and cause them trouble right now. Until now, he had only interacted with the Panthers organization, the Butterfly organization, and finally, the Force organization. So, he was wondering who it was that had actually come over to block him. Just as he was wondering, the car that was stopped in front of him moved to the side. At the end of the day, they were in the middle of the road, so, they had to move to the side. Jack realized that the other party did not seem to have any ill intentions. After all, after blocking him, they only moved to the side and stopped. So, he went ahead, quite curious about who it was that had come over right now. After he stopped the car, the door of the car in front of him opened. And, Jack realized that the person who had come out of the car was actually Sylvia. He wondered why it was that Sylvia had come over personally. Could it be that she had already decided on the matter that they had discussed the previous day? Although he was curious, Jack did not alight from his vehicle, and neither did anybody inside the vehicle do so. They waited, and Sylvia approached the car and stopped at the driver's window. Jack rolled down the window of the car, and Sylvia was able to see him clearly. And of course, currently, Sylvia was completely dissatisfied by the attitude that Jack and his group were possessing. Even if she went back to her own territory, then, those superhumans were definitely going to treat her better than this. But right now, Jack actually wanted her to come over, rather than him going to her car in case there was something that they needed to discuss. Although she was dissatisfied, there was nothing that she could do currently considering that she was the one that needed Jack's help. And, that was something that she had realized, and was intending to make it come through considering that she was contacted by her aunt previously. "What is it? Have you already decided?" Jack asked curiously. He was getting a little impatient because he wanted to go to the Force organization to get whatever resources that were there. Pushing down the dissatisfaction that she was feeling, Sylvia took a deep breath and said, "I have already decided to completely disintegrate the Panthers organization. Currently, all the resources of the Panthers organization have been prepared." Jack was surprised. He had not expected that Sylvia was going to make such a decision in such a short time. Of course, he did not know about the situation that Sylvia was currently facing, and neither did he know about her background. In any case, whatever Sylvia had done was definitely something that he was happy about. Currently, he wanted to conquer the entire stronghold. And to do that, all that he needed to do was to take action personally. But that was not enough. He wanted to get enough resources to boost his strength and the three beside him. After all, he was not facing people from Stronghold number 17 as his enemies, but instead, the people from Derek's side, and those from the Force organization headquarters. "You can squeeze in. We will be talking about that as we move on," Jack said as he gestured at Sylvia to enter the car. Currently, Celine was seated on the passenger seat, while Denali and Samantha occupied the back seats. The two ladies did not have any problem with Sylvia, so, Sylvia did just as she had been asked. Of course, she really wanted to invite Jack into her vehicle, but she knew that Jack was definitely not going to agree. So, rather than involving herself in an argument that she was not going to win, she just decided to go ahead with the way that things were progressing. Immediately after Sylvia got into the car, Jack began driving towards the direction of the Force organization. But, he was driving slowly considering that he wanted to finish the discussion with Sylvia first before he dealt with the Force organization. "So, I'm going to give you the resources that I have taken from my organization, the Panthers organization. But, before that, you will have to increase the benefits that I'm going to receive considering that I'm going to give you all the resources that the Panthers organization possesses," Sylvia stated, straight to the point. "What benefit are you going to ask for?" Jack asked curiously. Although she really did not want to say this, Sylvia had no choice. I'm currently facing a little trouble. So, I need your support in case something happens. Jack looked at Sylvia through the rear-view mirror of the car, and shook his head as he said, unless I know who the enemy is, I am not going to agree to something like that. After all, it is not as if I am a person who is going to make enemies all around for no good reason. And, if the enemy is way stronger, then, the resources of the Panthers organization are definitely not worth it. Sylvia already expected something like this. So, she was not surprised that Jack was going to disagree to something like this. Still, there was no any other choice that she was having right now. She did not know how strong Jack was currently, but she was sure that he was way stronger than she was. And, perhaps there was a possibility that he could match with her brother, although it was way far-fetched. But still, she believed that her brother was not going to come personally, but he was going to send a person that he trusted the most to come and look for her. So, she believed that perhaps Jack could have something that he could use in order to restrain the other party. Jack on the other hand did not hesitate to refuse that offer, unless he was given the information about the enemy that he was going to face. It was true that he was going to be playing big, but that did not imply that he wanted to make an enemy out of everybody inside the stronghold domain. It was true that he possessed the system, and he could improve quickly. But, unless he was actually way stronger, then, there was no way that he was going to provoke just anyone. But of course, he really didn't mind dealing with those that provoked him first. If you help me this time, I'm going to give you my support. I'm pretty sure that you want to start an organization. I'm going to give that organization of yours support, Sylvia stated. To her, as long as she managed to get what she wanted, then, she could go ahead and support Jack's organization. It was just that was something that could only happen after she went back home. But before that, she was definitely not capable of doing anything for Jack considering that she was not as strong as he was. Are you kidding me? Don't tell me that you are going to give me support by fighting for me. Although it is true that you are a superhuman, who said that it is difficult for me to get superhumans to work for me? Jack asked contemptuously. Of course, he did not know about Sylvia's real background, and for that reason, he thought that Sylvia was offering her own personal strength as support. But, whatever it was that Jack was going to face in the future, a Stage 2 superhuman was definitely not going to do anything. Just like the previous time, Smith and Watson were capable of dealing with Sylvia, and, since he had killed them, Jack was expecting that the Force organization was definitely going to send someone that was stronger than they were. And in that situation, Sylvia was going to be completely useless. Of course, Sylvia also understood that Jack had misunderstood her. So, she decided to reveal something that she had been hiding from everybody ever since she came into this stronghold. Actually, I am not a person from this small stronghold. Instead, I am a member of a big family, a member of the Devon stronghold, Sylvia stated. Jack's mind immediately went blank after hearing what Sylvia had said. He had not actually expected that figure was someone from a big background like that. But of course, what had caught his attention the most was the fact that Sylvia stated that she actually came from the Devon stronghold. And, for some reason, the system had actually decided that this Devon stronghold was the one that he was supposed to conquer. Could it be a coincidence or could it be that the system was playing a prank on him? After all, when it gave the details about Denali, it clearly stated that Denali had been trained by a mysterious organization before she was sent over to him. And somehow, it came to be that his mother was somehow involved with this organization that had trained Denali. And if this was a coincidence or not, Jack was not sure about it. But, how could it be possible that there were actually two coincidences happening with the system? But, it was just that, he did not know if there was actually any relationship between the Devon stronghold and his mother. But in any case, at this moment, Jack immediately decided that he was going to go to the Devon stronghold as soon as possible. At the end of the day, he could also conquer that place while at the same time trying to look for information about his mother. Sylvia looked at Jack, and realized that other than a little surprise that appeared initially after he heard what she had said, there was no any other change of expression on his face. This immediately frustrated her, because she thought that Jack was going to be amazed by her background. And, looking at the expressions of Denali and Samantha, the two ladies were actually acting nonchalantly, as if whatever she had said was not something big. At this moment, Sylvia could not help but try to think about what kind of background Jack actually possessed. But still, she was totally confused considering that she already received information that Jack and his group had only registered as members of the Stronghold domain a few days ago. That implied that they were actually not members of the Stronghold, and they had just arrived into the Stronghold domain. But that was something that did not make sense to her at all. How could it be possible that Jack had actually become a superhuman? And not only him, but even Celine was a superhuman, and she possessed a special ability as well. The two of them getting to the superhuman level was actually not something big as long as they managed to get resources, which was something difficult to be able to get the resources of high level from the stronghold domain. But there was yet another thing that was completely different, something that required the equipment within the stronghold domain. That was training the special abilities. Celine was able to control her ability quite well, although she had not mastered the special ability fully. But for her to be able to reach the level that she was having in the mastery of the special ability, that implied that she had trained for some time now. And the level of training was not simple considering that she was able to control her ability quite well, unlike those that possessed the special ability that Sylvia had seen during the time that she was back in the Devon stronghold. After taking a deep breath, Sylvia decided to continue. With the background that I possess, with the ability that my family possesses in that stronghold, it should not be difficult for it to be able to support the organization that you want to create. Jack did not respond, but instead, he looked at Sylvia deeply. Then after a moment of silence, he asked, "Are you really sure that you can make a decision for your family? After all, there's no need for you to promise me something that you cannot actually fulfill." Sylvia remained silent as she thought about this matter. It might actually be difficult for her to be able to make a decision for her family considering that the family was actually taken charge of by her sister-in-law. It might be true that her brother was the actual leader of the family, but still, he was always absent because he was trying to be able to reach a higher level in combat power. At the end of the day, in the stronghold domain, whatever mattered the most was actually the personal strength that each organization or family possessed. And for that reason, his sister-in-law was the one that was left in charge of the management of the family activities. So, that implied that, if she really wanted the family to support Jack's organization, then, that implied that she had to talk to her sister-in-law. It was a good thing that the relationship between the two of them was not stiff, and, the two of them were actually friends. So, Sylvia actually believed that she was going to be capable of convincing her sister-in-law to be able to agree to this matter. It is true that I might not be capable of making the decision for the entire family, but still, I am capable of making an influence. There's someone that after I talk to her, she would be able to support you. And, you having her support is no different from having the support of the entire family, Sylvia responded. Jack looked at Sylvia calmly. Then, he shook his head and said, "I really don't like uncertainties. So, it is completely impossible for us to be able to make a deal in the way that you are trying to make it look like." Sylvia was not expecting that Jack was not going to agree even after she had said all this. She wanted to say something when she was stopped by Jack as he continued. "You know, I'm trying to think about it, but I really don't think that this deal is worth it. At the end of it, if your family is from a named stronghold, that implies that it is not weak at all. That implies that the enemy that you are talking about is definitely stronger than your family. And if that is the case, why should I get myself involved in an issue that even your family cannot solve, just to gain the support of that same family that is completely helpless in this situation?" Jack asked, something that really did not make any sense to him. Celine and the others also thought the same. After all, if what Jack was going to gain was actually the family, and not owning it, but instead, just the support that was completely unreliable, why should he put himself at risk, having more enemies for nothing? Sylvia pursed her lips as she looked at Jack. To say the truth, even though she felt that Jack was making things difficult for her on purpose, but, after thinking deeply about it, she finally realized what the problem was. Jack did not possess the full information about what was going on, so, he did not understand what kind of enemy it was that he had to deal with. So, that implied that without that information, Jack was definitely not going to agree to this matter. But that was something that Sylvia was not willing to reveal at all. But, in this situation that she was in, she had no choice. At the end of the day, she was the one that needed assistance from Jack, and not the other way round. The enemy that I'm talking about is actually my elder brother. He is the current leader of the family, and he will definitely come over to take me back home. But, I just don't want to go home, at least not yet, Sylvia revealed. The information surprised Jack. He had not expected that the enemy that Sylvia was talking about all this while was actually her brother. And, he really could not find the logic in whatever she was saying. "So, you are trying to tell me that after I offend your brother, your family is going to help me, support my organization, when your brother is actually the leader of the family?" Jack asked sarcastically. Sylvia flinched for a moment, but she still gritted her teeth and replied, "My brother is actually the leader of the family, but he doesn't take active part in the management of the family affairs. All of this is actually taken care of by my sister-in-law, and I'm pretty sure that my sister-in-law will be able to agree if I talk to her well. So, if she supports you, as long as my brother doesn't care, then there will be no problem for my family to be able to support your organization that will be at its budding stage." Jack raised his brows a little, as he thought about the matter deeply. To say the truth, he really did not need the support of a family from a named stronghold for him to be able to develop an organization of his own. It was just that, if he gained some support, then the development was going to be faster, and he was definitely going to be able to complete part of the system mission for the upgrade sooner. "If you are sure about what you're saying, then it is better that we sign a contract," Jack stated after a moment of silence. Sylvia looked at Jack with a hint of hesitation on her face. To say the truth, she herself was not really sure that her sister-in-law was going to agree to give her the support that she was asking for. So, if they signed a contract, then that implied that, if the sister-in-law did not follow what she had promised, then that implied that Sylvia was going to suffer the consequences. Looking at the hesitation that was on Sylvia's face, Jack could not help but scoff. "Are you trying to tell me that you came over, wanting to have an agreement, but you don't want to sign a contract?" When Jack asked that question, Sylvia was immediately irritated. She looked at Jack and asked, "What do you think? Do you believe that I'm going to trust the contracts anymore? I signed one of them about 5 years ago, and until now that contract has not been fulfilled. And for some reason, it has not also been nullified." Jack immediately understood what it was that Sylvia was trying to imply. After all, his mother had signed a contract with her, and not just her, but even the shadow organization. But both the two contracts had not been fulfilled, and for some reason, they had not been nullified as well. Although Jack did not really know about the punishment that was said for those that broke the contract, but he felt that it was definitely death. But if it was death, why was it that his mother was alive? At the end of the day, there was no way that the contract was going to be active if one of the members that had signed the contract was dead. "I don't really know if you have a method that you are going to circumvent the contract with. So, I'm feeling insecure here. I will have to fulfill my end of the contract because I don't have a method of going around the contract, but I don't really know if you will fulfill that end of the contract or not," Sylvia stated. Jack looked at her and said, "I know my mother well. If she signed a contract with you, then that implies that she is really willing to fulfill it. But if she really did not fulfill her end of the contract, then there must be a reason for that." Sylvia wanted to say something, but looking at the cold expression that was on Jack's face, she decided against it. After all, right now, she was actually badmouthing his mother. So, it was normal that Jack was going to be angry if she continued. In the end, she snorted and decided to remain silent. Jack on the other hand did not do anything as well, but just focused on driving. And not long after, he stated, "We are about to arrive at our destination. So, you better make your decision right now. If you're going to make a deal with me, then we have to sign a contract. And if you don't want to sign a contract, then it is better that you focus on other things." Sylvia felt her brows twitch. She really felt disadvantaged. And, to say the truth, even when facing her brother, she really did not find herself in a situation like this. But right now, because of her own goals, she had to be in this situation. And, had it been that there was a chance that she could go around everything here, abandon the goal that she was having, then she would have definitely done that. It was just that, it was an impossibility for her. "Alright. We are going to sign the contract. Will we sign the contract after we go back to the territory that belonged to the Panthers organization?" Sylvia finally complied. At the end of the day, she was the one in need of help, and she had no choice but to compromise. "There's no need for that. We are signing the contract right now," Jack responded as he drove the car towards the side of the road. After stopping the car, he retrieved the contract from the system, but of course, he did not do that openly, but pretended to be taking it from below the seat of the car. Sylvia could not help but be surprised that Jack was actually carrying the contract around with him. At the same time, she thought that perhaps Jack was actually expecting that she was going to agree. Nevertheless, it was finally time to discuss the conditions that were going to be added to the contract. "What I want in that contract is that you are going to help me during the time that I'm going to face my brother. Of course, I'm pretty sure that he is not going to do anything directly, but he's going to send someone to come after me," Sylvia stated. "It is a good thing that whoever is going to be sent will not be coming over to kill me, but instead, to just take me back. What I want you to do is to prevent that person from taking me back to the family." And other than that, I will like your assistance in activating an item for me. But, you have to state it clearly that you will not have any ideas about that item. But I will not blame you if you really don't know how to activate that item. Jack thought about whatever Sylvia had said, and found that whatever she had said was actually not that bad. In any case, he could actually fulfill everything that she was saying. But, he had to make preparations because he really did not know about the level of the person that was going to be sent over to look for Sylvia. As for the second one, it was not as if Sylvia was stating that he had to activate it. Instead, she really wanted him to attempt activating that item. And, to say the truth, Jack was really curious about this item because it was something that his mother was supposed to activate. If I decide to activate whatever item it is, and I actually have the ability of doing that, will this affect my mother in any way? Jack asked with concern clear in his voice. He was not willing to involve himself in something that was going to harm his mother at the end of the day. If he activated the item, and the contract judged that his mother had not fulfilled her end of the contract, and decided to carry out the punishment for her wherever she was, then, Jack was definitely going to blame himself for this. I really don't know about that. But, I do believe that since she is alive right now and she has not yet fulfilled the contract, she will not be affected. Additionally, I am the one that decided for the item to be activated, making it that I denied her a chance of fulfilling the end of the contract. So, the contract should not punish her at all, Sylvia responded. Jack thought about it, but decided to keep the matter aside for now until he saw the item that Sylvia was talking about. It was only after he realized if he could activate it or not that he would make a decision on the matter. As for my part, you already know what you need to do. The first thing is that all the resources that belong to the Panthers organization have to be handed to me. And other than that, you will have to provide me information about the people that are from the Force organization, Jack stated. Providing you the information is not difficult. As for the resources, they are already ready as I have already dissolved the Panthers organization. But, in that part of the information, I believe that you will have to offer me protection if you want better information, considering that if I start looking for information about the Force organization, they would definitely not sit idle, Sylvia replied. No problem with that. Jack nodded his head as he responded. Although it might seem that he was receiving a little as compared to Sylvia, but Jack really did not care about it. To him, it seemed that Sylvia was going to lose a lot more in the near future. At the end of the day, Jack was given the mission of conquering the Devon stronghold, and since that was the case, that implied that he had to conquer whatever family it was that was supporting Sylvia. But coincidentally or not, that family had to support Jack in his quest. After all, it was his organization that was going to conquer that stronghold, and not just him. It might actually be cruel of him to do this, but, in this stronghold domain, there was no need for him to not take whatever had been offered to him. Since it was Sylvia who took the initiative to look for him, then, he was going to take advantage of this. Not long after, Jack wrote the information that was required on the contract form, using the special pen that was used for writing onto the contracts. Immediately after that, he cut his finger with a utility knife that was present in the car and dropped blood onto the contract form. Sylvia also went ahead and made a wound before dropping blood onto the contract form. In the next moment, the contract disintegrated and lodged itself into the glabellas of the two people. With that, the signing ceremony of the contract was completed, and with that finally out of the way, Jack finally focused on getting to the Force organization. Where are you heading to? Sylvia asked after she noticed that Jack had gone back to driving. To the Force organization. Jack responded. What for? Could it be that you have some business there? Sylvia asked curiously. Somehow. I need to collect some compensation for the hard work that has been given to me there. Jack replied with a shrug of his shoulder. It did not take long for Jack and his group to be able to arrive at the base of the Force organization. After arriving there, Jack and his group did not want to continue chatting with Sylvia. It is your decision. If you are coming, then you can come over. But if you want to go back to your organization, then you can go back. We'll start discussing other things later on after I am done with here, Jack stated as he opened the door, getting ready to get out of the car. What organization are you talking about? Haven't I already told you that I have already dissolved the entire Panthers organization? Currently, I don't really have an organization considering that everything is now yours. So, I'll just accompany you guys inside there. I'm curious about what compensation you are here for. Sylvia rolled her eyes as she responded. Jack simply shrugged his shoulder before he got out of the car, accompanied by Celine and the rest of the group. Sylvia followed from behind, quite curious about how Jack was going to deal with the situation here. Although she had received information previously that Jack had actually come into this organization, beaten up almost everybody that he met with along the way, creating chaos within the Force organization, but she was curious to be able to see everything personally. As for Celine, although she did not like the company that Sylvia was giving them, but she did not say anything. In any case, it was not as if she was feeling insecure that Jack was going to leave her. Instead, she just felt irritated with Sylvia around with that demeanor of hers. As the group approached the building, the people that were present immediately noticed them. After all, it was not long ago that Jack and his group had been here, and during that time, a lot of people had suffered. So, the moment that they saw Jack, they remembered who he was. After all, he had left a deep impression in their minds, making sure that nobody who had seen him in action or heard about him tried to do anything that would piss him off. He was not the only one, considering that even Celine had made her own movies. In fact, Celine was the one that took action the most, but she did not seem much cruel as Jack was, considering that she simply knocked unconscious the majority of the people that she encountered, with a few of them having several fractures. As for Jack, there were several of them that had gotten broken bones, though none of them died. So in their impression, Jack was way more cruel, as compared to Celine. The moment that they saw him at this group approaching, they did not dare to block him. Instead, they moved to the side, opening the way for him. Having already learned a lesson from the previous time, they did not want a repetition of what had happened the previous day to happen again. Sylvia was a little surprised. Even she herself had not expected that Jack had such an impact on the minds of the people from the Force organization after his visit the previous day. Of course, nobody tried to question Jack about his aim of being here. The previous time, it was simply because they were blocking his path that they were dealt with. And even their superiors told them that if Jack and his group came over, then they better not try blocking them. At the end of the day, there was no possibility that an ordinary human was capable of competing with the superhuman. But of course, although they could not do anything to Jack and his group, that did not imply that they could not inform their superiors. Matthias was in his office, quite distressed. He had already transferred the cash that he possessed to Jack, and today, he was supposed to transfer all the properties that he owned to Jack as well. That was something that made him feel frustrated. At the end of the day, he had managed to accumulate the wealth that he currently possessed after a long time. Being members of the Force organization did not imply that they were going to be rich. Instead, the Force organization gave them a lot of freedom as compared to the other organizations. That was the only reason why Matthias had not decided to join another organization within the stronghold. Currently, inside stronghold number 17. Even if he decided to join any other organization, then his backing was going to be low. Currently, as long as he managed to reach the superhuman level, he believed in that he would be promoted and taken to another stronghold that was of a higher level. Additionally, although he did not really possess much support from the headquarters, but at least, there was somebody there that knew about him. So, he believed that in case his life was really in danger, then that person might decide to intervene, considering that it was not going to be much difficult for him to be able to save him, Matthias. Just as he was relaxing, he suddenly heard the door of his office being banged. And even before he could react, the door at the entrance of the office was blasted inwards. Thankfully, Matthias was able to react fast and dodged the door that came flying towards his direction. Matthias did not even think about cursing at the person who had caused the door to fly inside. His office door was not simple, that implied that whoever it was that was capable of breaking that door, he was way stronger than himself. And since that was the case, that implied that if he went ahead and cursed at the other party, then he might end up dead. Standing from behind his desk, he looked at the entrance and his pupils contracted after realizing that it was Jack and his group that had arrived. He gulped at the thought of the reason why Jack and his group had come over again. Without waiting for Jack to say anything, Matthias hurried forward and said, "It is good to see you, Mr. Jackson. About the property, I was about to do the transfers today. It is just that it was going to take some time to process all the documents that are required for the ownership transfer. That is not the reason why I am here. I'm here because of the information that I received yesterday." "Who was the one that sent the information to me?" Jack asked. "I was the one. You asked for the information, and I am in charge of everything. So, since you said that I should send the information to you, I made sure to send all of them. I promise that we did not hide anything," Matthias responded nervously. He was afraid that Jack had come over thinking that they had hidden information from him, when that was not true. During the time that he was sending the information, he made sure to copy every information that was present inside the server of the organization, before transferring it to Jack. But of course, within the information that he had sent over, it possessed no information about the force organization. Not to mention the fact that they did not possess information about the headquarters, but even the information about the base that was located in this stronghold was not inside the server that he could access and initiate the transfer. Actually, all the information about the other Force Organization bases that were located in the strongholds was connected to the main server of the Force Organization headquarters. Although Matthias and the rest of the high-level members of the organization were able to access the information, but they were not given the authority of transferring the information, or copying it anyway. Of course, the information that they could access was only about their own branch, and not about the others. And, in order to be able to access the information, they would need special permission and reason for doing that. Of course, I know that you did not spare any information when you were transferring over the information. And that is the exact reason why I came over. Jack snorted as he responded. Matthias was left speechless. If Jack actually knew that he had sent over the information, not hiding anything, then, why was it that he came over? And, looking at the gloomy expression that was on Jack's face, it was clear that there was something that had dissatisfied him. So, Matthias did not know what to say, so, he looked at Jack, waiting for him to say about whatever it was that he was here about the information. Let me ask you something. The information that you sent me about cleaning a house, washing dishes, taking a shower, what the heck was that? Jack asked with his brows furrowed. Matthias was left speechless once again. He looked at Jack, and he could see that Jack was actually angry at him. But he could only swallow and respond. But you told me that I was supposed to transfer all the information to you. And that is just what I did. I went ahead and copied all the information regardless of the type of information, and transfer all of it to you. What the heck is your organization doing with information about taking a bath? Jack could not help but ask. That was something that he did not really understand. Of course, the main reason why he was feeling frustrated was simply because due to the addition of the extra useless information, he had to deal with an extra difficult mission for now. It is for personal hygiene. We have to make sure that all the members of our organization maintain their hygiene personally. Matthias responded with a forced smile on his face. Whatever the reason it is that you possess the information, I don't really care. What I really care about is that you sent me useless information that is going to cause me a little trouble. So, I'm here for compensation again. Jack waved his hand as he stated. Actually, he really did not come over to look for reason, but he had already decided that he was going to take over the Force organization. By taking over implied that he was going to take over all the resources that they possessed, and not owning the organization. So, to him, he really did not care about the reason that Matthias possessed when he sent him the information. Matthias remained silent as he did not know what to say now. At the end of the day, it was not his fault considering that Jack had actually stated clearly that all the information that the organization possessed was supposed to be sent over to him. And that was exactly what he did. Of course, he was afraid that by leaving behind some information, Jack might use that as a reason to look for him. But he had not expected that by sending the information completely, then, he had actually attracted Jack to come over again. As for Jack asking for compensation, he really did not know what he was supposed to say. At the end of the day, they had already given Jack big compensation in terms of star coins. And other than that, he himself was supposed to be transferring the wealth that he possessed to him. At this point, Matthias could not help but wonder just how greedy a person could be. He had taken all that, but he was still not satisfied, coming here using petty reasons just in order to make the organization to compensate him even more. Matthias thought about it for a moment, and thought that, let Jack have his fun right now. But, as long as the people from the headquarters came over, then, everything could be taken care of. At that time, perhaps he might have a chance of making Jack pay a lot more than what he was giving him right now. The compensation that I want is to take everything that your organization possesses here inside this stronghold. Jack stated bluntly. He was not here to hide anything, so, he went straight to the point. That is completely impossible. You do know that we are just a branch, and we do not have the authority of disintegrating the entire organization. After a moment of silence, Matthias responded. Of course, he made sure to think through about what he was going to say, just to make sure that Jack did not find another reason to find trouble with him. Who said that I do care about the whatever authority of your organization or something like that? I don't really care about it. What I care is that, I'm here right now, and I'm going to take all the resources that you possess in this organization of yours. Jack responded simply. But of course, if you try to resist, then, I don't really mind taking action on that matter. Jack stated as he looked at Matthias, while at the same time releasing the superhuman aura, before he retracted it just a second after he released it. But, although it was just for a second that he released the superhuman aura, but Matthias felt his body freezing. It was as if he was being stared at by a predator, and even a single wrong move would end up with him dead. Matthias swallowed hard. At this point, he decided that since Jack had decided that he was going to go against his organization, then, he was going to allow him to do that. There was no way that he was going to risk his life for the organization, when he really did not have the ability of preventing Jack from doing whatever he wanted. At the end of the day, he was just an ordinary human, and Jack had killed 2 superhumans that had been sent over, with even one of them being a stage 3 superhuman. As long as him managed to live, then all the grievances could be paid for later on. As for Jack, no matter how strong he was, there was no way that he was going to be able to compete against the entire Force organization. According to the information that Matthias possessed, he knew that the 2 that had been sent over previously could just be considered as foot soldiers. If the elite members of the organization were sent over, then, it would have been a piece of cake to be able to take care of Jack. It was also during this time that Matthias finally focused on the group behind Jack. And, his eyes widened in surprise when he realized that Sylvia was also present. It might be true that Sylvia was a superhuman, but since she was the leader of the Panthers organization, Matthias as the second in command of the Force organization had already met with Sylvia at some point. So, he could of course recognize her. But, he did not understand the reason why she came over, and neither did he understand the relationship that existed between the 2 of them. Nevertheless, he really didn't care, but during the time that he would be taking his revenge, he would definitely make sure that he paid all the people that came over proportionally. Matthias was not the only person that thought about not resisting against Jack. The other 2 had also thought the same. Even if they wanted to resist, there was nothing that they could do. So, under the cooperation of the 3 high-level members of the Force organization that was located in Stronghold number 17, Jack finally took over the entire organization. To him, he really did not care about the headquarters of the Force organization. At the end of the day, he had already provoked them, and the 2 sides were already considered enemies. So since that was the case, then, he might as well start attacking them right now. Although it might be true that this branch was not much important to the Force organization, but, it was quite important for Jack in terms of resources. The reason behind this was the fact that after taking over the Force organization, acquiring all the resources that they possessed, the multiplier effect took effect. And with that, everything that he gained was multiplied by 100 times. And of course, Jack decided on having the multiplier effect taking the quality side. As for the matter of quantity, he really didn't care much about it. It is detected that there are a lot of resources of the same type. Would the host like for the system to integrate everything for him so that the quality of whatever he is going to receive would be higher? Jack was just relaxing looking at the system prompts that were flashing in front of his vision when another prompt accompanied by Angel's voice got his attention. Is that possible? Jack was a little surprised. After all, he had not expected that the system was going to give him an opportunity like this one. And, to say the truth, if he was given this opportunity before, then, he would have definitely taken it without hesitation. The decision depends on the host. If the host gains the same thing over and over again, the system can go ahead and integrate them so that they can improve in terms of quality. The same applies to the first income from the grocery store. The motorcycles were integrated in order to be able to give the host a Bugatti Veyron. Jack was immediately reminded of the time that he had received the first income reward of several grocery stores that he was opening. At that time, instead of receiving several Suzuki motorcycles, he was given a Bugatti Veyron. With a hint of excitement, Jack immediately decided, integrate everything that can be integrated so that I can get something of a high quality. Currently, we don't really care much about quantity, but what matters the most is definitely quality. Confirmed. Everything that the host has gained will be integrated according to similarities in terms of functions and type. You receive a 5-star rejuvenation serum. You receive a 6-star recovery pill. You receive a 6-star recovery serum formula. You receive a 7-star superhuman armor blueprint. You receive a 5-star communication device blueprint. You receive a 6-star laser weapon blueprint. You receive a 7-star genetic lock-breaking pill. You receive a 7-star genetic lock-breaking serum. Jack was surprised by the income that he had received this time. It was actually completely way above his expectations even after the integration was mentioned by the system. Of course, if it was just the resources that came from the force organization that was integrated, then Jack would have definitely not gotten what he had gotten right now. But this was the integration of the income that he had gotten from the force organization, multiplied by 100 times in terms of quality before the integration. And, although he had not yet gone through the information, but just the star level that each of the item that he had received possessed, he clearly understood that everything was top-notch. Subconsciously, Jack smiled. With all these that he had received, he believed that his strength was going to be boosted to a higher degree. Why are you smiling? For some reason, I'm getting a feeling that you are planning something evil. When Celine, who was seated next to him, noticed him smiling, she could not help but ask curiously. Don't worry. Let us go back first. We are going to deal with the rest later on. But, I do have a surprise for you guys after we arrive home. Jack stated with a mysterious smile. Celine and the rest of the group were curious about what it was that Jack was talking about. But, looking at him right now, they could tell that he was not going to tell them anything unless they reached home. So, the group left the building, leaving behind the devastated and helpless leaders of the organization. Currently, they had already given out everything that they possessed, and they really did not know how they were going to continue running the organization without the support of the headquarters. From the way it looked like, they had to wait for the support that would come from the headquarters. But, it was just that, they did not really know about how long they were supposed to wait. In any case, it was not as if this branch of theirs was that much important to the headquarters. Even Matthias was not sure that the headquarters was going to take care of them, considering that they had actually given out almost everything that they possessed in the organization. But of course, he hoped that they were going to be helped, considering that they were the ones that had revealed the information about Jack and his group. That was enough merit as long as the leader of the headquarters of the force organization came to know about it. Sylvia decided to follow Jack and his group. She really did not know what it was that Jack was hiding, but she was curious about it. Additionally, since she had already dissolved the Panthers organization, that implied that she really did not have any other place to go. Wherever she was living before was considered a property of the Panthers organization. For that reason, currently, it was considered as part of Jack's property because everything that belonged to the Panthers organization was to be handed over to Jack. Jack did not chase her away. In any case, they were going to get involved with each other, so there was no harm for her to be there. As for her knowing about whatever it was that he possessed, he really didn't care much. Even if she knew about it, she was going to need his assistance in whatever it was that she was still hiding from him, other than the fact that he had to protect her from her own brother, who was actually not having the intention of killing her. Jack and his group did not go to the store. Instead, they went back to the building that they had bought the day that they arrived inside the stronghold. There, Jack finally began unveiling the mystery that he possessed to Celine and the rest of the group. But before he did that, he confirmed something with the system. System, will those that will be taking the serums and the pills need to train for a long time to be able to consume the energy that is present in the pills and the serum? Jack asked in his mind. Absolutely not. Just like the boosting pill, any item that comes from the system has immediate effect, and does not require the host to train for a long time to be able to fully absorb the effects of the item. Then what about the body strengthening solution? After taking that pill, the people that had consumed that will needed to do something about the extra energy in their bodies. So, why was that so? Jack asked back. The host has to know that the body is strengthening pill did not come from the system. Instead, it was the formula that was required for the making of the pill that came from the system, and not the pill directly. So, that is considered invalid. Jack was left speechless by what the system had said. But, after thinking about it, what the system had said was actually true. The body strengthening pill did not come directly from the system. Instead, it was just the formula and the method of creating the pill that came from the system. As for the boosting pill, that came directly from the system. And, after Jack took it, it took effect immediately. It was just that, it needed some time for it to be able to take effect fully, but, Jack was not required to do anything about it. Having already confirmed from the system, Jack turned his attention to the group in front of him. The group was eagerly waiting for him to reveal whatever it was that he was hiding from them. Wait for a moment, I'll be back. Jack stated before he went back to his room. Of course, there was no way that he was going to take everything that he had received from the system in front of everyone here. Even Celine did not actually know about the existence of the system. So, Jack planned to make sure that everything remained the same until he realized what the system really was. It might be true that until now, the system had not showed any ill intention towards him. But, there was still the fact that there were just too many coincidences that were related to the system. That was something that Jack wanted to solve first before knowing the next step. After getting into his room, Jack took out the rejuvenation serum, recovery pill, and the genetic lock-breaking pill and serum. As for the formulas and the blueprints, Jack decided to put those aside for now. Not long after he had taken those items from the system, through the system depositing everything on top of his bed, information finally appeared in front of him, describing to him about the items in front of him. Rejuvenation serum, 5-star. Once a person takes the serum, they would be able to recover from injuries and weariness to the cellular level. The effectiveness of the serum depends on the power level of a person who takes it. It is only effective to those that are at stage 5 of the superhuman level and below. Recovery pill, 6-star. Once a person takes the pill, they would be able to recover from injuries and weariness to the cellular level. The effectiveness of the pill depends on the power level of a person who takes it. It is only effective to those that are at stage 7 of the superhuman level and below. Genetic lock-breaking pill, 7-star. The pill enables a person to be able to break the genetic lock, enabling them to reach a higher level of human evolution. The effectiveness of the pill differs from the power level of the person taking it. A 5-star superhuman will be able to break the genetic lock and reach the 6th stage of the superhuman level. As for the ordinary humans, the level of strength that they would have an increase in depends on their current level. The minimum requirement for an ordinary human to use this pill is 8-star ordinary human level. Genetic lock-breaking serum, 7-star. The serum enables a person to be able to break the genetic lock, enabling them to reach a higher level of human evolution. The effectiveness of the serum differs from the power level of the person taking it. A 5-star superhuman will be able to break the genetic lock and reach the 6th stage of the superhuman level. As for the ordinary humans, the level of strength that they would have an increase in depends on their current level. The minimum requirement for an ordinary human to use this serum is 8-star ordinary human level. After reading all the information about the items that he had received from the system, Jack could not help but be amazed. He had not expected that what he was receiving here was actually so overpowered. It was also during this moment that a dangerous thought began emerging in his mind. If all this was just from a small organization within a small stronghold, then, what would happen if he acquired something big from the big organizations? It is best for the host to be able to restrain himself. The host has to remember that the income can only be multiplied as long as the host does not harm anybody during the time that he is acquiring the income. Jack's mind went blank after hearing what the system had said. What did the system try to imply by saying that the income could only be multiplied as long as he did not hurt anybody? It was not long ago that the income that he had received from Smith & Watson, that recovery pill, and it was actually multiplied by 100 times, giving him 100 pills. So, why was it that the system was claiming that the income could only be multiplied by 100 times as long as he did not hurt anybody, when he had already done so? The host should understand. As long as the person is not an enemy to the host within the stronghold domain, then, as long as the host goes ahead and texts their property, then, that income would definitely not be multiplied by the system. It is considered a form of illegal income. Jack finally understood what the system was trying to imply. But in any case, at this point, he thought about it clearly, and it seemed that whatever the system was saying was actually logical. If it went ahead and restricted him from even getting the income from his enemies by using force, then, that implied that he would have to work with everything in a civilized manner. But, that was not something that worked within the stronghold domain. Whatever. Is it not just that the system wants me to beat up an enemy before looting them? Then there's no problem with me going ahead and offending as many people as possible so that I can get something from them, right? As long as I provoke them, they could be considered as my enemies, right? Jack could not help but think to himself. If the host creates enemies all around intentionally with the aim of getting something from them, then, that income is not going to experience the multiplier effect. Unamused Jack could not understand where this system was getting this logic of its from. At the end of the day, wasn't it just an enemy? Additionally, the system had given him the task of conquering an entire stronghold. Wasn't that him making an enemy intentionally, after all, who said that he had to conquer an entire stronghold for him to be able to survive within the stronghold domain? That is not intentional. At the end of the day, you're doing that because the system gave you a task to complete. Additionally, if you don't complete that task, the punishment would definitely not be delayed. Jack was once again left speechless. It seemed that the system was insistent on this matter. At this point, Jack could not help but think, could it be that the stash that the system possesses is about to be exhausted? To this thought of his, the system did not respond at all. But Jack decided to set the matter aside for now, thinking about the enemies that he currently possessed. He could decide to use the Devon stronghold to boost himself further. Then, there was the Force organization, added to Derek's family. With only those three, he was already having a lot of trouble if he did not get stronger. Initially, these three groups could be considered as trouble for Jack. But right now, they were actually a source of income for him. So, Jack was feeling excited that in his mind, he had already began planning his next moves for the next few days. With that thought in mind, he left his bedroom with a special box that contained all the items that he had gotten from the system. After arriving in the living room, he went ahead and gave Celine the serum. As for Denali, he gave her the pill. Of course, the two were the genetic lock-breaking pill and serum. As for Samantha, he looked at her and said, "I'm going to give you something soon, so you don't have to be impatient or feel bad or neglected." "I understand," Samantha responded. To say the truth, when she realized that Jack was giving Denali and Samantha something, and she on the other hand was not receiving anything, she could not help but be disappointed. But in the next moment, after hearing what Jack had said, she got excited. This was definitely what she was looking for. Something from Jack was definitely not something simple, considering that he had even given Celine, who was a superhuman, a serum. Although it might come a little bit late, but she did not really mind waiting. Even if she was told to wait for a year, she would definitely wait for it. This was definitely a chance for her to be able to rise to the top. It was also during this moment that she thought that she really made the right decision. Curiosity caught Sylvia. She looked at the two items that Jack had handed over to Celine and Denali curiously as she asked, "What are those for?" The moment that Sylvia asked that question, both Denali and Celine focused on Jack. They brought their attention back from the items that they had been given, and waited for Jack to respond. They too were curious about what it was that Jack had given them. Sylvia on the other hand was not sure about the items that Jack had given out. Although she was actually from the big stronghold, she really did not interact much with the resources there. At the end of the day, she left the Devon stronghold long ago, before she became a superhuman. Those two should be able to enable you to increase your strength. Denali, it should not be difficult for you to be able to become a superhuman after taking that pill. Jack stated with a smile on his face. The moment that Jack said those words, everybody in the room was actually shocked. Jack had actually given out something like that. And, even Celine was given one, implying that, even as a superhuman, the serum that she had been given was capable of improving her strength. At this point, Samantha was envious of Denali. But she thought that Denali deserved it. At the end of the day, Denali had been by Jack's side for a very long time now, and other than that, there was also the fact that the relationship between Jack and Denali was way better than the one that she shared with him. As for Celine, although she was surprised, she was not that much shocked. At the end of the day, Jack had actually managed to make her a superhuman with just a single word. Although she did not understand the mysteries behind that, but she knew that in this world, there were definitely several abilities, and perhaps Jack possessed one of them. And perhaps that was what he had utilized in order to be able to strengthen her. Sylvia on the other hand was completely dumbfounded. She did not believe that Jack was actually capable of taking out items like that. It might be true that Jack was a superhuman, but being a superhuman did not guarantee that a person was capable of getting resources that were able to make superhumans. So, the question in her mind at this point was that, where could have Jack gotten the items? Of course, she was not the only one that was thinking about that. Even Celine was curious about where Jack had gotten the pill and the serum, but she did not ask since Jack did not say anything about it. Jack was already keeping so many secrets from her, so one more did not really matter. Additionally, she believed that Jack was going to tell her everything in due time. "Jack, where did you get those? I'm pretty sure that even in the stronghold the time from, it is not easy to be able to acquire resources like that. At least not for those that did not hold high positions within the stronghold," Sylvia asked curiously. Jack completely ignored the question that Sylvia had asked, and went ahead towards Celine. "Are you ready to have an improvement in your strength right now?" Jack asked as he looked at Celine. Celine blinked her eyes as she looked at Jack before asking, "Like right now?" "Of course. What other time did you think that you were going to take it? You know, you have to get stronger as soon as possible because we don't know what will happen next. We already have 3 enemies right now." Jack stated with a simple shrug of his shoulder. Wait. Are you sure about this? From what I know, as long as you get something that is capable of improving the strength of a person, then, that person would have to engage in strenuous exercises. Sylvia stated as she looked at Jack confusedly. She believed that since Jack was able to acquire these items, then, that implied that he actually knew how to use them. But why was it that he was acting as if he didn't know? You don't have to worry about that. These ones will be effective immediately, Jack responded nonchalantly. Seriously? Sylvia looked at Jack incredulously. But when she noticed that Jack was not responding, she decided to give up on that matter because she knew that as long as Jack decided not to respond, then, he was not going to say anything. But it was also during this moment that she thought of something. Wait a minute, didn't you have 2 enemies? Why has it suddenly become 3? You'll know about it soon. But that is definitely not something that you should get worried about right now, Jack responded mysteriously. Immediately after saying that, he went ahead and took a cartridge syringe before going back to where Celine was. Celine did not say anything but handed over the serum to Jack. Placing the small bottle of serum into the cartridge of the syringe, Jack went ahead and prepared Celine's arm. After that, he injected the serum into Celine's body. On the other hand, Denali went ahead and took the pill as well. Unlike the serum that needed to be injected into the bloodstream, the pill could be taken directly. The moment that the two of them took the pill and the serum, changes suddenly began occurring in their bodies. At that moment, they felt that their bodies were filled with incredible strength, and they felt like they were going to explode at any moment. Of course, the experiences of the two of them were quite different, although they were almost the same at the same time. For Celine, she felt that there was something that was tightly holding her in place. But, after the serum was injected into her bloodstream, she felt that those chains that were holding her back was suddenly being loosened. Then, with domineering force, the chains were broken, and she was released. It did not stop at that, but, several chains began breaking one after the other. And in no time, 3 chains had been broken. The moment that the 3 chains were broken, Celine had reached stage 4 of the superhuman level. And with reaching this point, sudden changes began occurring inside her body and even outward, although the ones that were occurring outside of her body were quite minimal.